Hello and Minglaba. Welcome to MI Reader's Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zinn. Real estate development, one of the leading sectors for foreign investment. A report on that coming up later. Beans industry remains unhurt in Myanmar despite COVID-19 outbreak. As good a piece of news it is, stocks in May increases 10% compared to April. A story coverage on Beijing lowering emergency response level. All these reports coming up later on Myanmar Today, but for now let's take a look at what's happening in local news. State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi wrote on her Facebook page on Monday that it was important to distance ourselves from infected persons if we wish to protect ourselves from getting infected, and that this was the first thing that people learned regarding COVID. As it was impossible to know who had been infected, it became necessary for us to stay at a distance from everyone. This was what she wrote. All of us became familiar with the term social distancing this year. There needs to be some discussion regarding the use of words. It was important to distance ourselves from infected persons if we wish to protect ourselves from getting infected. Some think that instead of social distancing, physical distancing, which meant keeping a physical distance from each other, was more appropriate. Whichever term we used, this is not something very easy to do. This is something the Ministry of Health and Sports has to worry about, as their duty is to take care of our health. Especially in the markets and bazaars where people are pushing and shoving without heeding to social or physical distancing, as if encouraging the spread of infection of the disease. She also said, quote, I want all of you to keep a distance from each other by following the instructions of the Ministry of Health and Sports to give some ease of mind to the Health Minister. Those who go to sell and those who go to the markets, please take special care and don't forget to wear your masks and wash your hands. The National Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities held its first meeting for 2020 in Naypyidaw on Monday. Vice President U Henry Venthio, in his capacity as the chairman of the committee, delivered a speech and explained the government's continuous efforts on protecting the rights of PWDs, like other issues during the COVID-19 crisis, the use of special languages for PWDs and creation of video clips for the awareness program for ensuring right to information, access to information in Naypyidaw Council area and other states and regions in collaboration with relevant organizations. The Ministry of Social Welfare Relief and Resettlement has coordinated the requests of the Emergency Response Joint Committee for COVID-19, comprising the Myanmar Federation of Persons with Disabilities and the organizations affiliated with persons living with disabilities, on these issues of low-income families of PWDs, those who were kept under home quarantine and facility quarantine, and the PWDs who were tested positive. The ministry has provided financial assistance to the PWDs in coordination with the Joint Committee. The Vice President added a national-level meeting of employment opportunities for the PWDs will be held in the post-COVID-19 period. The government of the People's Republic of China made donations for COVID-19 measures to the Ministry of Health and Sports in Myanmar for the fourth time on Monday. Chinese Ambassador Mr. Chen Hai said both nations have established themselves with mutual respect, support, assistance, and development through numerous hardships and are continuing this support during the COVID-19 pandemic. The ambassador also said that the overall situation is heading towards a positive note as the State Councillor is leading the prevention, treatment and control measures for COVID-19. He said he hoped this donation, handed over on behalf of the government of China, would support Myanmar's efforts against the disease and further strengthen the bilateral relations between the two nations. Union Minister for Health and Sports Dr. Mien Tui said China has donated medicines, medical and laboratory equipment worth $6.3 million, including this fourth donation to Myanmar so far. He said Alibaba Foundation and Jack Ma Foundation have also made donations worth $142,500 as well. Myanmar has been making systematic arrangements for the return of migrant workers from Thailand since the 1st of May. The total number of returnees through Myanmar-Thai Friendship Bridge No. 2 of Myawaddy border town in Kayin State on Monday was 946. Among them, 35 people have served penalties in the neighboring country and 911 people came back home on their own schedules from various parts of the kingdom with the approval of the Myanmar Embassy. Kayin State Luto MP U Tan Sin Aung and local officials helped the returnees with medical tests and other supplies. A total of 22,546 Myanmar migrants have arrived back home. through this route. The latest group of returnees include 579 men, 367 women from different regions and states. With the permission of the Ministry of Transport and Communications, the Road Transport Administration Department resumed its operations on Monday. The RTAD reopened its office on Monday and has given services on vehicle registration of region or state or district and township offices, driving license renewals, and task licenses starting on Monday. The services are given at the head office of the department in Tinganjun Township, Yangon, starting at 8 a.m. daily into 4 schedules for those who have taken online bookings in advance. That's all with the local news. Let's take a look at the first report now. When the community is getting back to normality, the real estate sector is ready to run again. With foreign investment coming in, it is hoped that the real estate can thrive gradually. According to the data released by the Directorate of Investment and Company Administration, real estate development is the second most investment-approved sector during the 8 months of 2019 to 2020 fiscal years. Thoras Wizin has more.
According to the Statement of Foreign Direct Investment Yearly Approved Amount by Sector, released by Directorate of Investment and Company Administration (DICA), the total amount of foreign investment approved for the month of April was $624.508 million and $293.864 million out of total amount was approved for real estate development sector. Not increased amount was witnessed in March and May, but it is still leading as the sector with the second most approved foreign investment amount after 8 months of 2019-2020 fiscal years.
For the foreign investment in April, the DICA had approved $293.864 million for real estate development. Until 29th May, $4.19 billion has already been approved, and out of total amount for the 8 months of 2019-2020 fiscal years, $0.895 billion for real estate development was approved, which was 21.87% of the total amount.
Last year, for 2018-2019 fiscal years, there was only $210.933 million approved foreign investment for real estate development, but this year it has already been up to $895.822 million approved amount during 8 months of fiscal year.
The
increase in statistics of DICA's investment sector is the amount that is approved. Not all amounts are practically invested at once. The invested companies have many steps to do, and the actual flow of the investment is increasing gradually. The approved amount cannot have immediate impacts on the market.
With the outbreak of COVID-19, the offices were closed during stay-at-home period of April and May, so that during these months, the real estate market slowed down. However, then the offices are reopened and the daily routines are getting back to normal. The real estate market comes into the way to get back to normal status.
In
April, real estate services office were closed. In May, people started to walk in the circumstances, thereby recovering and operating their businesses again. In June, the real estate offices are ready to provide services again.
With the control of the situation on COVID-19 in Myanmar, the investors seem to wait for a while for ensuring the market to be stable, as the virus issues are still affecting the market.
The foreign direct investment
as most of the real estate markets internationally target and depend on the foreign investments, the situation is the same here as well. Even though there are some investors in local market, it is still not as sustainable to depend on it as of now. I can guarantee that the real estate market will thrive again, certainly after these COVID-19 issues withers. I can say it because for any kind of investments, investors' first priority and necessity is to own or rent a land in which their company can be built on.
The government has already reduced tax rate for real estate and some policy procedures are eased. However, it is still in state of practically affecting ground situation. According to the expert, after 1 year, the real estate sector will be able to run in a better status. The most invested countries in real estate development of Myanmar are Singapore and China, but in ground situation, Chinese investors seem to do more investments because different countries invest through the offices based in Singapore.
The
real estate sector is not the business that can be disappear. Through past year, the market situation can be stable or slow down, but there is no way of dissipating. So the investors need to be patient since it is the long-term investment.
That's all for now. This is Tora Suisin from MI Radio.
That's a report on real estate development, one of the leading sectors for foreign investment. All right, we'll move on to the next report. The novel coronavirus named as the global pandemic COVID-19 is fast spreading almost all the countries across the world, thereby resulting in severe effects on almost all businesses and the shutdowns of factories, industries, and all public places. Dr. Myo Lwin, Vice Chairman of Yangon Region Chambers of Commerce and Industry, said most of the businesses had to be shut down and were facing great losses due to the spread of the COVID-19 infection in Myanmar. But bean industry exporting hundreds of thousands of tons to foreign market yearly remains unhurt. Let's take a look at the report.
The novel coronavirus, named as the global pandemic COVID-19, is fast spreading in almost all the countries across the world, thereby resulting in severe effects on almost all businesses and the shutdowns of factories, industries, and all public places. For the time being, the virus can be almost kept under control and the businesses of some countries are back in operation. Also in Myanmar, almost all businesses, including factories, industries, and restaurants and catering, have begun resuming operation with full workforce in line with the new health guidelines. Most of the businesses had to be shut down and were facing great losses due to the spread of COVID-19 infection in Myanmar, but bean industry, which is exporting hundreds of thousands of tons to foreign market yearly, remains unhurt. It was said by Dr. Myo Lwin, Vice Chairman of Yangon Region Chambers of Commerce and Industry. He also talked about that the government should place emphasis to other businesses except the bean industry because the bean industry is not quite affected by the COVID-19.
This industry is Myanmar's key business in which all walks of life are engaged, and this includes farmers, merchants, brokers, entrepreneurs, stevedores, and transport. This industry remains unchanged before and after COVID-19. I don't think Myanmar's economy will not decline sharply in the coming years beyond COVID-19 crisis. Our country mainly relies on agriculture and 70% to 80% of the population are farmers.
The bean entrepreneur said that the demand for the bean is back to slow now, although foodstuffs including rice, edible oil, salt, chili, onion, and pulses and beans were in demand earlier as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. Udrong Wenai, who is the managing director of Sway Company Limited, spoke to MI Radio about the financial flow in the hands of local people became slower and domestic consumption decreased sharply.
The sale of beans became quite brisk before COVID-19. The people did the act of buying the foodstuff. The sale of beans slowed down in the wake of the COVID-19. After the reopening of the brokerage centers, there is only one that compared to the previous years, and there is no money in the hands of the people, and money is in crisis. The financial flow in the hands of the local people becomes slow, and domestic consumption decreased significantly as well.
There are about 16 kinds of pulses and beans in the local market, and green gram, mang bean, and pigeon peas are the main export items, especially they are exported to India. Different kinds of beans are also exported to China through border trade route. The government will approve the license to export 400,000 tons of green gram to foreign countries during this year. The export license will be passed up to the 31st of March in the 2021. The export license to export 150,000 tons of mung beans and 200,000 tons of pigeon peas has already been approved, according to Dr. Myolin, Vice Chairman of Yangon Region Chambers of Commerce and Industry.
License is passed to export 200,000 tons of pigeon peas, and green gram can be produced only in India and Myanmar. India mainly consumes green gram. India buys green gram from Myanmar. Pigeon peas are available in India and Myanmar, as well as 4 African countries. According to the market news, pigeon peas are not left much in African countries. For that reason, we hope that at least 100,000 tons or more than 100,000 tons of pigeon peas will be sold to foreign countries.
The current price for 1 ton of green gram costs 920,000 kyats, pigeon peas 810,000 kyats, and mung bean 1.2 million kyats. Speaking to MI Radio about the bean industry will not completely change, and bean has to be exported to India and China through border trade routes. Dr. Myolin also said that.
I don't think the bean industry is strangely affected by the COVID-19. If the people get accustomed to new model health guidelines, flow of commodity will get back to regular status. But some businesses such as tourism, hotel, and other services will have to struggle with the difficult situation post-COVID-19, and our bean industry goes well.
That's a report on the beans industry that remains unhurt in Myanmar despite the COVID-19 outbreak. And we have another report on stock trading coming up. According to the Yangon Stock Exchange, the stock trading in May saw a gradual increase of 10% compared to the trading volume in April. Our reporter David Tanner interviewed Uttatong U, Executive Senior Manager of YSX, regarding the circumstances of YSX in the current situations. Let's take a look.
Yangon Stock Exchange, YSX, as a stock exchange, is a venue to provide opportunities for investors to buy or sell listed companies' shares. Investors have to send their buying or selling orders to YSX through securities companies having securities license issued by SECM, as well as trading qualification provided by YSX. With that said, Uttatong U, Executive Senior Manager for YSX, will tell us more about the summary of stocks exchange during the month of May.
In May, the total of 6 listed companies traded for 200,416 of shares and 1.218 billion kyats worth of trades were reached. About 64 million kyats worth of trade were also made daily in May. And in the stock indicator Myanpix, it indicates the stock trade point as 450 points. It increases about 10% compared to April.
As the 6th listed company and the first logistics company to be on Yangon Stock Exchange, Everflow River Group Public Company Limited (EFR) has got the permission to become a listed company on Yangon Stock Exchange (YSX) on 28th of February in 2020 and has begun to trade its shares on the market on 20th of March in 2020. The measures to list has been taken in accordance with Section 41C of the Securities Exchange Law and Section 7 and 8 of the Securities Listing Business Regulations. We will find out more about EFR and its current situations and how it has been performing as of May. From Uttatong U.
EFR is currently a newly listed company on YSX, and even though it has been noted with the base price of 2,300 kyats back then on the market opening back then, but the shares trading has been made with a price of 2,700 jets currently. So it is plus 400 jets amount on the base price as of now. EFR's shares has been listed for about 19.9 million jets worth of shares. And as foreign investor also has been interested in EFR's, about 1.5% of shares listing has been officially open for foreign stocks buys and investors. And as of now, about 390 foreign shares has been traded.
Wu also noted that there will be a gradual increase in shares trading as of this June, as the quarantine period will hopefully ease around 15th of June. Security Exchange Commission has also allowed everyone to register online in any 6 security companies they want from any places that they are in. With those situations being improved, it can be expected to see the increase in customer accounts and in trades as well. With that said, Wu will tell us more about the collaborative activities of YSX and Security Exchange Commissions in the coming months.
YSX, in collaboration with Security Exchange Commission, will be announcing the instructions and statements on related party transition. The instruction will be unnecessary for communication between listed companies' representatives and the person who would like to trade or to invest. In my perspective, this will be a great asset and win-win situation for both parties. We have now been shooting and making an online training course content for everyone who are interested in stock exchange market. So we can expect a series of online training courses relating to the stock exchange market soon. As the generation changes and with this current situation of the quarantine period, we have developed this opportunity to attract everyone and help people access to the market and be informed. Even though we have made several physical workshops here at Yangon Stock Exchange, we can only reach about 60 attendees per workshop. But with this online course being made, I hope it will help hundreds or even thousands of people who are interested in this area.
Reporter David Tanner reporting from Myanmar International Radio.
That's a report on the stocks in May, which increases 10% compared to April. All right, we'll have one last report coming up right here on Myanmar Today. Stay tuned. The Beijing municipal government is downgrading its emergency response to COVID-19. Some comment that the move to downgrade the emergency response level is too soon to come. However, the Chinese capital lowered its emergency response to COVID-19 from the top level to level 2 on April 30th. Beijing has seen no abnormal rebound in infections since then. Despite downgrading its emergency response to the 3rd level, Beijing still faces risks from imported cases and from domestic cases from outside Beijing. Akajo will tell us more.
It is reported that Beijing is set to lower its emergency response to COVID-19 pandemic from the 2nd level to the 3rd level, starting from Saturday. The local municipal government announced it on Friday, adding that prevention and control measures will be adjusted accordingly. The Beijing municipal government is downgrading its emergency response level to COVID-19. Officials say the response level will be lowered to level 3 from level 2, starting at midnight on 6th of June. MI Radio reached out to Masu Tamu from China Media Group CI Myanmar Department to investigate further.
COVID-19 နဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ဗောနော်လက်ရှိအချိန်တွေကိုပြောရမယ်ဆိုရင်တော့ဒီဝူဟန်မြို့မှာဆိုရင်မေလ14ရက်နေ့ကနေဒီဇွန်လ1ရက်နေ့ည12နာရီအထိဒီဝူဟန်မြို့မှာရှိတဲ့လူပေါင်း9သန်းကျော်ကို COVID-19 ရောဂါရှိမရှိတိုင်းတာစစ်ဆေးမှုတွေသက်ဆိုင်ရာကဒါပြုလုပ်ခဲ့တာတွေ့ရတယ်။ရှားလက်တွေ့အရှားဝူဟန်မြို့ကိုလုံခြုံစိတ်ချရပြီလို့ပညာရှင်တွေကသုံးသပ်ကြတယ်။ဒါအပြင်ဒီလ6ရက်နေ့မှာ COVID-19 နဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ဗောနော်ဘေဂျင်းအစိုးရကအရေးပေါ်အခြေအနေကိုအဆင့်2ကနေအဆင့်3ဖြစ်ဒါ အဆင့်လျှော့ချပေးလိုက်ပြီဒါပေမဲ့ရက်ကွက်တွေမှာတော့အပူချိန်တိုင်းတာတွေလူစိမ်းဝင်မပြူတာတွေစသဖြင့်ပေါ့နော်ယောဂကောက်ရဲ့ထိန်းချုပ်ရေးလုပ်ငန်းတွေကတော့အရှင်တိုင်းလုပ်နေတော့မှာပဲလက်ရှိနေထိုင်မှုပုံစံသစ်အဖြစ်လူအများစုကတော့ကိုယ်အနီးနားမှာအပန်းဖြေအနားယူစရာပေါ့နော်မီနီဂါဒန်လေးတွေပေါ်ထွန်းလာဖို့မျှော်လင့်ကြတယ်ဟိုးဝေးကြီးအပြင်တွေကိုရှောက်မသွားကြတော့ဘဲနဲ့မီနီဂါဒန်လေးတွေမှာအကစားလေးကျင်တာအပန်းဖြေအနားယူကြတာလမ်းလျှောက်တာတွေဒါလုပ်လာကြတယ်ပြီးတော့ဒီအိမ်တွေမှာပေါ့နော်စာအုပ်တွေငှားပြီးတော့စာဖက်ကြတာတွေလည်းဒါပို့ပြီးတော့လှုပ်လာတာကိုတွေ့ရတယ်ဒါတွေကတော့ဒီကက်ယောဂါကြောင့်ပြောင်းလဲလာတဲ့လက်ရှိနေထိုင်မှုပုံစံသစ်တွေလို့ပြောလို့ရပါတယ်ရှင်
Beijing will reportedly lift purchasing restrictions on plane and train tickets for people from the central province of Hubei, except for people from medium and high-risk areas. Beijing will no longer require permits for those entering the capital city from Hubei via highways. People from Hubei province will no longer need to quarantine for 14 days or go through collective observation after arriving in Beijing. Although people from those areas currently under quarantine or observation in Beijing can be discharged. People entering Beijing from Wuhan will not need another nucleic acid test as long as they have a test result proving their negative status. However, nucleic acid tests will still be required if they cannot provide such proof. Residential compounds will no longer need to take people's temperatures, although registration is still needed. Companies that provide daily necessities and services can resume production under complete control and prevention measures. Meanwhile, in the tourism sector, Beijing will allow domestic group tours under proper conditions except those from medium and high-risk areas. Inbound and outbound group tours will remain suspended. Parks, tourist sites, and public indoor venues can allow more visitors under strict prevention and control measures. Some events, such as conferences, exhibitions, sports matches, and entertainment shows can also be held under strict prevention and control measures. Schools can resume classes in an orderly manner and masks will not be required for outdoor activities. The city will also allow people from the other areas to visit hospitals in Beijing in an orderly and restricted manner except those from medium and high-risk areas. Some comments said the move to downgrade the emergency response level is too soon to come. However, the Chinese capital lowered its emergency response to COVID-19 from the top level to level 2 on 30th April, and Beijing has seen no abnormal rebound in infections since then. Despite downgrading its emergency response on the third level, Beijing still faces risks from imported cases and from domestic cases from outside Beijing. This is Agajo reporting for Myanmar International Radio.
That's a report on Beijing lowering emergency response level. Well, that's all we have for today's reports. Let's take a look at the international news now. World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus on Monday said that although the COVID-19 pandemic in Europe is improving, globally it is worsening. According to Tedros, more than 100,000 cases have been reported to the WHO in 9 of the past 10 days, and on June 7th, more than 136,000 cases were reported, the most in a single day so far. Tedros said, quote, almost 7 million cases of COVID-19 have now been reported to WHO, and almost 400,000 deaths. As for the situation in Africa, the WHO chief said that most countries there are still experiencing an increase in the number of COVID-19 cases, with some reporting cases in new geographic areas.
Almost 7 million cases of COVID-19 have now been reported to WHO, and almost 400,000 deaths. Although the situation in Europe is improving, globally it's worsening. More than 100,000 cases have been reported on 9 of the past 10 days. Yesterday, more than 136 cases were reported, the most in a single day so far. Almost 75% of yesterday's cases come from 10 countries. mostly in the Americas and South Asia. Most countries in the African region are still experiencing an increase in the number of COVID-19 cases, with some reporting cases in new geographic areas, although most countries in the region have less than 1,000 cases. WHO fully supports equality and the global movement against racism. We reject discrimination of all kinds. We encourage all those protesting around the world to do so safely.
President Xi Jinping on Monday inspected poverty alleviation work and ecological protection in northwest China's Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region. It is his 7th domestic visit this year, following Yunnan, Beijing, Hubei, Zhejiang, Shaanxi. President Xi first visited Hongde village in Wuzhong City on Monday afternoon. With a population of 7,013, the village ended poverty last year through the development of farming and husbandry. It also has a cardboard packaging workshop to offer stable local jobs. Poverty alleviation relocation is part of the efforts by local governments across the country to relocate impoverished residents from remote, barren, and disaster-prone areas to more habitable places. China views rural impoverished areas as the biggest challenge in completing the task of building a moderate, prosperous society in all respects by 2020. In other news, U.S. Special Envoy for Arms Control Marshall Billings-Slear wrote on Twitter on Monday the United States and Russia have agreed on a time and place for nuclear arms negotiations in June and invited China. China has repeatedly reiterated that it has no intention of participating in the so-called trilateral arms control negotiations with the United States and Russia. Citing a U.S. Department of State official, Bloomberg reported the same day that a new round of arms control talks will be held in Vienna on June 22nd. The upcoming meeting will be the first arms control talks between Billings-Slear and his Russian counterpart, said Bloomberg, suggesting that the Trump administration has softened its stance on extending New START, New Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. The agreement can be extended for at most 5 years with the consent of the two countries. Russia has expressed willingness to extend the treaty, while the Trump administration has yet to officially reply. The World Bank said Monday the global economy is expected to shrink by 5.2% in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In a far grimmer scenario, the bank lowered its outlook by 7.7 percentage points from a 2.5% growth forecast made in January. The current crisis, it said, is the deepest global recession since World War II and almost 3 times as steep as the 2009 global recession, adding the forecast assumes that the pandemic recedes in such a way that domestic mitigation measures can be lifted by mid-year, adverse global spillovers ease during the second half of the year, and dislocations in financial markets are not long-lasting. The organization expects that the global economy will bounce back in 2021, growing by 4.2%. In other news, Samsung Group's leader J.Y. Lee appeared before a South Korean court on Monday awaiting a ruling on whether new allegations including accounting fraud and stock manipulation will send him back to jail after more than 2 years of freedom. Prosecutors last week asked the court to issue an arrest warrant against Lee, culminating a probe into a controversial 2015 merger of 2 Samsung affiliates that they said helped facilitate Lee's plan to assume greater control of the group. The risk of more jail time for Lee, who has led the group since his father's heart attack in 2014, has cast a pall over the conglomerate and in its crown jewel, Samsung Electronics Co., whose annual revenue alone is equivalent to 12% of South Korea's gross domestic product. Well, that's all we have for now. Thanks for joining me on Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zin. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you again. Goodbye.